Okay, Mark, so great to have you in the pop-up studio here at GDDF. I want to start by having you introduce yourself.
Great. Thanks, Nick. I'm Mark Meassick. I'm the Deputy Assistant Administrator in the, let's see if I can get this right, the Inclusive Growth Partnerships and Innovation Bureau at USAID. And extremely excited to be here for another year of GDDF. And thanks to you, Nick, and everybody who's made this happen. It's a seminal event every year, and I really enjoy it.
It's so great to have you here, and big kudos to your team for helping organize this event with us. Every year, USAID kind of gets more and more excited about the different events and programs as part of the larger conference. So just a gratitude to that. All right, Mark, I want to ask you, you sit over this large department in USAID that is really thinking about technology intentionally. I think it's, one of the largest of any aid agency around the world. You probably have the largest footprint thinking about digital development, digital democracy. Say a bit more about this unit and how it's oriented and some of the things that maybe are coming down the pipe that people should know about.
Yeah, I'm really excited with the work we're doing in digital development. I think we've done some incredible things. I think the challenge for an organization like AID is we manage failure a lot better than we manage success. And so we've had a lot of success in the digital world of development. One, the digital ecosystem country assessments that we do. Yes, the DECAs, they end up being sort of a baseline for all of the U.S. government in many respects to understand things that are going on in the country. I think it's really sharpened our view of the bad things that can happen with digital and some of the difficulties we've had with our Chinese and Russian friends in terms of not using technology for good. I think it's to say it pretty clearly.
Yeah.
I also think that we've had some real success in terms of getting everybody and other donors on board with why we need to start looking at digital solutions first. I think we still have a lot of work to do inside AID to make digital the default entry point in terms of how we organize ourselves and carry out our programs. I also think we've got to find a way to start getting more of the digital AI stuff, especially back behind our firewall, to help us enable us to be more effective as well. So
let's go deeper there. So we've talked a lot at this conference about the new USAID digital development policy that will complement the strategy that already exists. What does this open up for the agency, and how do you see this leading to change, organizational change across what is a very large and I'm imagining kind of sometimes unwieldy institution?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things the policy does is it sort of helps us apply for me, are three important management principles for successful development. One is if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, expect a different result. There's a word for that, insanity. And I think we are understanding that while we've made great progress on the digital space, there's so much more to do. And for us to get to the next level and scale, we needed this policy to help open up some new avenues of activities for us moving forward. So I think that's very exciting. Now, the other management principle, which I think is really important, is that how you do business is just as important as what you do. And so we insisted that this policy be carried out through extensive consultations with the digital development.
You did a nice job with that.
Community, with the interagency. We've had consultations with Capitol Hill, lots of different actors, internal consultations with missions as well. And so I think we've got a rounded understanding of where people feel we need to be in terms of the subjective understanding of how fast things are starting to happen. And as we spoke, the whole AI piece has really accelerated. It's seized in many ways people's imagination, but at the same time, it's created a whole series of worries, especially on Capitol Hill, about making sure that we keep it safe and make sure that privacy is respected and that it actually works for good. And I think that's the big challenge we're seeing moving forward. So the policy itself, I know you've talked to Alana about this, and I think that it's the buckets that we're working on in terms of trying to figure out how we can get greater connectivity and those kinds of things. A lot of things I think are going to happen of their own accord. I think smartphones are eventually going to become like wallets in people's pockets, and hopefully they'll start costing about the same. And I think once we get there, sometimes I think my smartphone is pretty dumb right now. And I think that the next level of things as we go forward in terms of the softwares and all the interactions, and then getting that into the hands of people who don't normally have it is going to be one of the biggest challenges that we have, so that we can make it so that we can make the leaps forward that we see in technology in terms of being able to be more inclusive, get more people on board, get more people involved in the economy.
All right, Mark, I'm going to ask you a little bit more about the AI craze that we're currently in. You mentioned a couple of risks that it's presenting. Like, what's the mood inside USAID? Is it one of like optimism? We've heard a little bit from the CIO's office. We've heard from folks on Chris Burns' team. From where you're sitting, high up in the agency, is there a lot of enthusiasm, or is it mostly fear-based?
No, I think it's much more of an enthusiasm. For instance, I'll give you a good example. Every year, we're required by government to produce performance reports from every single one of our operating units, every mission we work in, every bureau.
A lot of work.
It's a lot of work, and it's a huge amount of paperwork. And in the end, it's probably read by less than 25 people. But you have all that data, and if you could mine that data with AI and try to start synthesizing it, I think we would reveal things that we didn't know about how we were doing on a lot of different levels. So I think it's, as a tool for improving aid effectiveness, tremendous possibilities. Now, as far as using it as a tool for development in terms of improving our programming, we still have such a long way to go in terms of figuring out how we induce this into our programming. We collect a lot of health data. We're setting up a lot of electronic medical records programs. And if we can get AI involved in that in some way and get us into the space where we shift from looking at things in terms of curative medicine to preventive medicine.
Big shift, big opportunity.
We could do that and get ourselves into that primary healthcare mode virtually. I mean, sky's the limit. We can make this world so much healthier. And that would be tremendous. But I think the same is true with agriculture. I think the same is true with all the sectors we work in. So I think there's a lot of imagining about all of that now. Now, on the other side, our democracy and governance program is really looking at all the issues around misinformation and elections and ghosting and whatever, all the other things that are going on. And I think all of those concerns are valid, and we do need to figure out how to address them, especially when we've got specific malign actors that are actually trying to induce this at scale. And so I think we really need to take that seriously. So for me, it's all about doing these things with your eyes wide open.
And especially because the pace at which a lot of these technology companies are moving is not really giving us much time to mitigate some of these risks. And maybe it's not their job. We can, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but puts more pressure on U.S. government entities to make sense of something that is really very future forward.
I would really like to see the large language models and the Chat GPT folks to sort of start segmenting the market a little bit better. And I think the large language models serve a purpose, but then there are specific AI, sector specific and local specific that I think have huge social value. So I think it's normal for the big companies that, because they're so big, to look for where they can maximize their margins and maximize their profit. But I also think they need to sort of understand that that is only a small piece of the potential of AI in terms of dealing with a whole slew of different challenges where we need to crowdsource information in a meaningful way to get a better view of what we're doing in a watershed, and crunch that data, we've done a lot of that stuff with the Geospatial Center and AID, where, when I worked in Kenya, we had we did our country strategy, and we couldn't download the PDFs of all the data that
Painful.
Bureau of Statistics had. So Carrie and her team downloaded all the data, put it into a manipulable database, and then generated the reports for us on what the trends were.
Groundbreaking.
It was fantastic. It was fantastic. Now, when I did that in Uganda, we found that the most deprived and difficult situation of existence in Uganda was the life of a 14-year-old girl. She had the highest rates of HIV infection. Teen pregnancy was 33%. They were the highest. They had the highest threats of sexual violence and violence in general, and that they were economically exploited mainly in many of their households. And so we said, let's use the 14-year-old girl as the entry point for us to determine the operations we put in to implement our strategy. And that was groundbreaking. And so that's the power of these kinds of tools. And so if you had the AI to be able to accelerate all that, and you could help countries develop their own development plans based on being able to get all that information, it would really change the way people do stuff.
Mark, so many things there to unpack and take deeper. Is there any other parting wisdom you want to leave the global digital development crowd who's watching us here today? Anything else that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I just think people need to maintain their enthusiasm. I mean, this is always an electric group, people who really have a deep commitment. And I think if we can figure out how to harness that, I would really like to see the community come together, probably more formally and into some kind of formal organization, because I think if you do that, you can amplify your voice, not just in terms of relationship with AID or donors, but in terms of enlightening Congress about what the potential for all this is, getting more involved in the G7 process and the G20, and getting leaders to start thinking about these things a little bit differently, and gaining some nuance about what the potential is and how to actually solve some of these challenges, and not just sort of listen to Google. And I think there's so many other voices out there who have much more creative solutions, and it's always been that way. The smaller guys are more agile, more creative, and have more space for being able to tolerate failure. So I think that makes such a big difference, and we just need to figure out how to recalibrate that balance.
Yeah. That's a powerful call to action, and I'm excited to see what we can do to mobilize and connect this community more intentionally. But hey, we thank you so much for the work that you do, and for the leadership that you have showed us at USAID, for the work that you put into this event, making this successful, you and your team. And we hope you have a great rest of your Global Digital Development Forum.
Thank you, Nick. And for me, you are an inspirational person, and I really appreciate your online presence, your personal presence. You're a great leader, and thank you for all that you do for this.
Thanks for the kind words, my friend. All right. Take care.